I'm Miss Lynn from Early Literacy Matters. If you're watching this video, it's because you're interested in activities for 4 to 5-year-olds based on the story Curious George, Rain or Shine. In the story, Curious George began to predict the weather, first through drawings and then by creating an instrument to gauge the wind. So let's get started and talk about some of the things you will want to do with your child to develop some math skills. First of all, we're going to talk to your child about developing symbols. Symbols are something that your child will begin to use later on in school. Plus, minus, equal in math will become skills that your child will need to have early on. So what we're going to do today is practice making symbols for weather. So one thing I would like you to do with your child or children is sit down and make weather symbols. You don't have to make the symbols yourself. You can sit down with your child, discuss 4 or 5 different kinds of weather, and make the symbols with your child. So if you want to represent a cloudy day with a symbol, you could do something like this. A sunny day, something like this. The most important thing is to get your child involved and have your child make these different symbolic representations of the weather. Once you do that with your child, then you can begin to chart the weather. Every day, you and your child can look outside and see, is it sunny, cloudy, and what kind of clouds are out there. So one thing that will be helpful is I will review right now the different kinds of clouds that your child can look for. You can also do a little more research on the internet. One type of cloud is a cirrus cloud. A cirrus cloud is wispy. And one thing you might want to point out to your child is even though cirrus begins with a C, it's not cirrus, it's cirrus. This kind of C at the beginning of this word has an S sound. That would be important to point out. Cumulus is the next kind of cloud you want to introduce to your child. Cumulus begins with a hard C sound, k, and cumulus clouds are white and puffy. Nimbus clouds. We have all seen nimbus clouds, and we may or may not know what they stand for. Usually they are dark and puffy, and they usually bring rain. Stratus clouds are thick and layered. Stratus. With this exercise, in addition to forecasting the weather, your child is going to learn to be a keen observer of the weather. Being an observer means using all of your senses. So as your child gets more comfortable predicting the weather, he or she will start to feel the humidity and sense that the wind is coming up. So a prediction or a forecast is the same thing, and you can teach your children these vocabulary words: to forecast and predict. All right, moving on. One other thing that George does in the book, at first he draws pictures, and then he realizes that the wind is an important variable in determining the weather. So at home, you can make your own windsock. I recommend a paper towel holder instead of a toilet paper holder, and any other kinds of light materials that you can tape on the bottom to predict the strength and direction of the wind. And I just found some twine which will hold my windsock up on a tree branch. So that is an additional kind of variable that you and your child can begin to introduce. What is the wind doing while it's sunny? What is the wind doing while it's cloudy? All right. Another kind of measurement that would be easy to introduce that you can make at home is a rain gauge. A rain gauge is another instrument that a meteorologist uses to measure what's happening with the weather. So if you get a clear plastic cup and put tape lines a couple inches up, you can predict what the rainfall is. That will be an activity that your kids will enjoy doing. So in terms of a vocabulary word we're going to add, in the story, the scientists that George met were called weather scientists. You'll want to introduce the real term for a weather scientist, a meteorologist. This way you can extend your child's vocabulary. If you're interested in more variables that you can check out with your child regarding the weather, visit sites that talk about the instruments that meteorologists use to predict the weather. And you will find that they use something called an anemometer to predict the wind, and they use a rain gauge to predict the weather. And there are all kinds of other things they use too, which your child may want to add in terms of predicting future weather. I hope you had a good time. We want your child to be able to forecast, reflect on that forecast, and then refine his or her efforts to predict the weather. Thanks so much. Have a good day.